Have you ever wondered why the expensive batteries in your off-grid system seem to die years before they should? Most people think a battery is just a box of power that eventually runs out. They treat it like a gas tank that gets smaller over time. But what if I told you that you are actually killing your batteries the very second you wire them up? What if the instructions that came in the box were actually designed to make you buy new batteries every 5 years? Today we are looking at a secret that the battery industry doesn't want you to know. It is a concept called resistance symmetry. By moving just 2 wires and choosing a specific type of old-school chemistry, you can turn a temporary power source into a permanent asset that will outlive your grandchildren. We are talking about a battery system that doesn't just store energy, but actually balances itself using the laws of physics. This is the story of how you can achieve unlimited power by stopping the slow suicide of your battery bank. The big problem starts with how we are taught to connect batteries. Most people follow a simple parallel setup. They link positive to positive and negative to negative in a long row. Then, they connect their inverter to the very first battery in that row. It looks neat and it makes sense to our eyes. But electricity does not care about looks. Electricity follows the path of least resistance. In a standard setup, the first battery is right next to the power draw. The last battery is far away. Because the electricity has to travel through more wire and more connectors to reach that last battery, it faces more resistance. This means the first battery does almost double the work. It gets hotter, it drains deeper, and it wears out twice as fast. Once that first battery starts to fail, its internal resistance goes up. This creates a death spiral that eventually kills every single battery in the bank. To fix this, we have to use the diagonal connection method. It costs $0 extra and takes 10 minutes. You simply move the negative load cable from the first battery to the very last battery in the row. Now, the electricity from the first battery has a short path on the positive side but a long path on the negative side. The last battery has a long positive path but a short negative path. Suddenly, the resistance for every battery is exactly the same. This is physics creating balance. By making this one change, you stop one battery from cooking while the other is coasting. You ensure that every cell ages at the exact same rate. For those building larger systems, you should move past simple wires and use bus bars. Think of a bus bar as a thick copper highway. Instead of daisy chaining batteries together like a chain of people holding hands, every battery gets its own dedicated path to the highway. But there is a catch. Every single wire must be the exact same length. If one wire is even 6 inches longer than another, it adds a tiny bit of resistance. That tiny bit is enough to create an imbalance. When you use equal cable lengths and bus bars, you are creating a bus bar topology. This is the same method used by massive phone companies and railroads. They need their power to last decades, and this is how they do it. Now let's talk about the heart of this system, the nickel-iron cell, also known as the Edison Cell. Most modern batteries like lithium or lead acid are fragile. If you overcharge them, they can catch fire or melt. If you let them sit empty, they ruin themselves. Nickel iron is different. It is basically a tank of alkaline water with iron and nickel plates inside. It is chemically forgiving. It doesn't care if you overcharge it or leave it empty for a year. It is one of the only chemistries that can actually be restored. If it starts to get weak after 15 years, you don't throw it away. You just pour out the liquid and put in fresh potassium hydroxide. It's like giving your battery a heart transplant for a few $100s instead of buying a new one for thousands. To get the most out of these cells, we use a series parallel hybrid setup. Since each cell only gives a little bit of voltage, we wire 20 of them in a row to get 24 volts. Then, we take several of these rows and wire them side by side to get more capacity. This is where the cross-stringing secret comes in. We connect the middle of one row to the middle of the next row. This lets the batteries talk to each other at the cell level. If one cell in string A gets a little weak, the cell in string B sends it a little boost instantly. They support each other like a team. This means the system stays balanced without you ever having to touch it. One of the coolest parts of nickel iron is high voltage equalization. Once a month, you intentionally overcharge the batteries. You push the voltage up to 1.7 volts per cell. For any other battery, this would be a disaster, but for nickel iron, it is like a spa day. The high voltage creates bubbles in the liquid. These bubbles mix the electrolyte and prevent stratification, which is when the heavy chemicals sink to the bottom. It also cleans the plates. This process makes the battery stronger every time you do it. However, you can't use a standard charge controller for this. Most controllers are made for lead acid and stop at 15 volts. You need a custom programmable controller that can go all the way up to 34 or 68 volts. You also have to worry about the thermal bottlenecks. When you are pulling lots of power, like running a washing machine or a well pump, hundreds of amps of current are moving through your wires. If those wires are too thin, they act like a space heater. They get hot, and heat is the enemy of efficiency. You must use thick, heavy cables, what professionals call 20 or 40 AWG. Yes, they are expensive and hard to bend, but they are a one-time cost for a system that lasts a century. Thicker cables ensure that the power goes to your house, not into heating up your battery room. Safety is also a major part of this permanent architecture. Each row of batteries needs its own fuse. This is called individual string fusing. If one battery in a row develops a problem, the fuse will pop and disconnect just that row. Your house stays powered by the other strings while you fix the problem. This is called fault isolation. It means your system never has to go fully offline. Because nickel iron uses water-based liquid, there is zero risk of the thermal runaway fires that you see with lithium batteries. The only thing they produce is a little bit of hydrogen gas when they are charging hard. A simple exhaust fan in the room takes care of this completely. So what is the catch? Why isn't everyone doing this? First, it takes up a lot of space. A full home system can weigh 2 tons. You can't put this in a small closet. You need a dedicated room with a concrete floor. Second, it is not as efficient as lithium. You lose about 20% of the energy just in the process of charging and discharging. This means you might need a few extra solar panels to make up for the loss. And finally, the upfront cost is high. A full system might cost $35,000. That is a lot of money to pay at once. But here's the math that changes everything. A lead-acid battery bank might only cost $5,000, but you have to replace it every 4 years. Over 30 years, you will spend almost $50,000 and do a lot of heavy lifting. A lithium bank might last 10 or 15 years, but you still have to buy it twice. Nickel iron is a buy once, cry once situation. You pay for it today, and you never have to think about battery replacement for the rest of your life. It is the cheapest option over the long haul. It is not just a collection of parts, it is an engineered system where the wiring and the chemistry work together to defy time. When you build a system like this, you are stepping away from the consumer cycle. You are no longer waiting for your batteries to fail so you can spend more money. You are building infrastructure like a road or a bridge. By using resistance symmetry, cross-stringing, and the Edison cell, you are using the laws of physics to protect your investment. You are choosing independence. You are building something that works as well in year 30 as it did on day 1. So, the next time you look at a battery wiring diagram, remember, physics doesn't take bribes. Wire it right, choose the right chemistry, and stay independent.